Good morning, I am Madhurima Datta, Zoology and Biology Educational Content Creator. Now's content for B.Sc Zoology Honours, Microbiology Honours, CUET PG exam, GATE exam, DBT exam, IIT JAM exam, BARC exam and CSI NET Life Sciences exam, and also M.Sc in Zoology. Paper Animal Behavior, Unit 2 Learning Behavior, and topic is Introduction of the Learning Behavior. Introduction. We start by addressing three interrelated questions. That is, how do animals learn? Why do animals learn? What do animals learn? What do we mean when we speak of learning? This is a complicated question, but the definition of learning we adopt here is straightforward and fairly widely accepted within psychology. According to Shuttleworth, 1998, learning refers to a relatively permanent change in behavior. This definition does have a downside in that it is not clear how long a time period is encompassed by the words relative permanent. Next, types of causation. Proximate causation. Proximate causes are defined as those that are not evolutionary in nature. But this is probably not the most productive definition for two reasons. First, it can often be very useful to understand evolutionary forces when asking how and what questions. And the utility can be lost if proximate causation is defined as everything that is not evolutionary. Second, this definition makes it same as if proximate level of analysis is less important than analysis at the ultimate level, whereas both are equally important. Proximate analysis working with factors that operate within lifetime of an organism. Example, male segregation, plumage coloration at both proximal and ultimate level. What causes males and females in differ in plumage coloration? This is a proximate question, and why such color differences persist over evolutionary time? It is an ultimate question. It is also called actual questions. Next, ultimate causation. Proximate explanation for differences in males and females coloration leads to an ultimate question: why do males but not females actively search for carotenoid based foods, and what exactly were the benefits that males received for having bright plumage? Next, learning from a single stimulus and experience. This experience I will describe as a example of the learning behavior. At first, the simplest experience that can lead to learning involves a single stimulus, a stimulus that can take almost any form. For example, let's imagine that we are interested in studying learning in rats, and the numerous times throughout the day we simply place an arbitrary kiwi in a rat cage. We will make the kiwi a blue color streak, which are considered an arbitrary kiwi because it had no relevance to the rat before we began our experiment. Rats will often take note of such a disturbance and turn their heads in direction of the blue stick. Next, if over time the rat becomes more likely to turn their heads in the direction of the blue stick, and that is if they become more sensitive to the stimulus with time, sensitization has occurred. Conversely, if over time the animals become less likely to turn their head, and habituation is said to have taken place. Sensitization and habituation are two simple single stimulus forms of learning. The process of habituation can be problematic for experimental ethologists, particularly to those who work in the laboratory, because it is sometimes difficult to examine behavior if animals habituate quickly to stimuli. Next, definition of learning. A relatively permanent change in behavior as a result of experience is called learning. Next, what is the habituation? Habituation is a form of learning in which organism decreases or ceases to respond to a stimulus after repeated presentation. Essentially, the organism learns to stop responding to a stimulus which is no longer biologically relevant is called habituation. Conditioned stimulus. A conditioned stimulus is often defined as a stimulus that initially fails to elicit a particular response but comes to do so when it becomes associated with a second stimulus. Next, unconditioned stimulus. The unconditioned stimulus is a stimulus that elicits a vigorous response in the absence of training. Example, the unconditioned stimulus would be the cat odor, which inherently causes a fear response in cats, once the rat has learned to hide after the blue stick. Next, operant condition. Operant conditioning is a method of learning where voluntary behavior is modified using reinforcement and punishment. Popularized release on the core by psychologist B.F. Skinner based on the Edward Thorndike's earlier law of effect. It relies on the core principle that actions followed by good outcomes are repeated, while actions followed by bad outcomes stop. Now the topic has ended. For all video of graduation and masters in zoology honors, microbiology honors, physiology honors and CSNET life sciences, GATE exam, CUT PG exam, DBT exam and IIT JAM exam, please subscribe my YouTube channel Biogenesis by Madhurima and follow my Facebook account Madhurima Dotto. Thank you everyone.